Hey, you right? I hope everyone's going well with their assessment. This video here is just going to show you just quickly how to create a FlowLine map. Now, we've practiced this a few times before, but just for a few people who maybe are still a bit unsure or maybe have been absent in class, just really quickly got to recap on how to create it. Now, what you need to have on you to create this is you're going to need to have, your Excel spreadsheet. This is one of all your data on it. So you got migration by age, population over time, etc., etc. The one you need is the first tab. So the migration between the area being the Gold Coast, and other states and territories. So with this data here, you can see that on the first column we have our states and territories with New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, South Australia, Western Australia, Tasmania, NT, and the ACT. Also, we have from overseas. It just doesn't specify about which particular nation. But basically, with those areas there, we have our in-migration on our second column. So they're the people who have moved into the Gold Coast from these areas. We have our out-migration, so people from the Gold Coast originally who have now left to these areas. And then we have our net migration. So that's just our in-migration minus our out-migration. Okay? For this FlowLine map, you can either use in-migration or you can use net migration. It's up to you which one you want to use, but you just have to specify in your analysis which one you are using. Now, because I can't use the same data you are using, otherwise you'll just copy my map, I'm going to be using the same type of data, but for the Tweed area. So, here we go. It's the same data. It may just be formatted a little bit differently, but here's the Tweed Shire Council. Again, it has all my states and territories showing my in-migration, out-migration, and net migration. So that's the first thing you need is your data. The second thing you're going to need is access to ScribbleMaps. Okay? With this, you don't need to sign up at all. When you get to the home screen, you can just click Create Your Map Now. But it's just called ScribbleMaps, as you can see here on the URL. Alright, when you're on ScribbleMaps, you just zoom into Australia like I have here. And now we can start creating our FlowLine map. So what a FlowLine map is meant to represent is where people are migrating from and where they're migrating to. Now, because we're focusing on housing unavailability on the Gold Coast, we want to focus on the migration to the Gold Coast, because that's one of our leading factors that cause a big demand on our housing system, which increases our price. So we go back to our Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to map in migration. It's just easier for me, but you do whichever one you want. It doesn't matter that too much. I'm going to map in migration. So I need to look at my data so I can see that the smallest in migration is Tasmania at 55 and the largest is New South Wales at 7,000. Oh no, sorry, the largest is Queensland at 7,200. What I need to do is work out what my breaks are going to be. So with this, you just make natural breaks. They don't have to be evenly distributed. It just depending on where majority of the numbers lie. So let's make my first one. Let's make it 0 to 500. Okay. So here I click Create Legend. On my Create Legend for a FlowLine map, you need to use arrows. So where this line type is, I'm going to change it to the arrow. And here you can change your color as well. Now for this, I'm going to put my title in. The title, this line is representing 0 to 500. These are my smallest values. So for this, what you would normally do in a FlowLine map is that you would represent this with the smallest arrow. And then the higher the value, the thicker the arrow is. Now, unfortunately with ScribbleMaps, you can't do that. So the way around it is what we will create what we call a monochromatic scale. So essentially, my smallest value, being 0 to 500, is going to be represented with an arrow of a lighter color. So I select one color for all my arrows, but just select lighter shades. This one, I'm going to go with, let's go with the blue. I'm going to pick a lighter shade of blue from my smallest value. Okay. After I select that, I'm just going to click add. So now I have my first break for my legend. Now I need to get my next set of data. So let's have a look at what we got. Our next number is Victoria at 1,330. So I'm going to go now from the 500 to 1,500. So to do that, if I was to type in 500 to 1,500, I would have a big problem. I've already wrote the number 500 in this one here. And you can't have overlap in your breaks. It's a big no-no, because what if you get a data set that is exactly 500? Then you're not going to know what color to put it. So to simply fix that, we just make this one 501 to 1,500. Okay? If I was, let's say, to make this 550 to 1,500, again that'd be wrong, because I would have a gap in my data sets of 50. So this must be 501 to 1,500. Now for this, it needs to be an arrow, so it's already selected. But my color, or my shade, sorry, needs to be slightly darker, because it's representing a number that is slightly larger. So I'll try and find something that is a bit darker. Click add. There we go. That looks darker than the last one. And now we move on to the next section. So where we go. Our next number is from overseas at 2,000. So let's go. Maybe the next one can be 1,501 to, it could be 4,000. Alright, it's just natural breaks, so it just means that wherever the numbers naturally sit, you make breaks to categorize them together, so they don't have to be even distribution in breaks. So this one, I go darker again. So let's go for a darker shade. I hope that's a bit darker there. Let's see it. Yeah, that's a bit darker there. Cool. And then my final one, let's have a look. We got two that are at 7,000, so really I should probably put them together because they're very close in the numbers. So my last one, I'll go 4,001. And then I could just do like plus, or I can just write or more. Alright, just so then if there's any data set that comes in, it can all be represented as the one color. So for this, I might go for like a darker shade of blue. Okay, well I will. And add. There we go. Now I click the cross here, and you can see down the bottom here I have my legend. So I start off with my 0 to 500. What was that again? 0 to 500 was Tasmania, Northern Territory, and the ACT, as well as South Australia and Western Australia. So there's quite a few there. So simply, I click it. Let's start off with the ACT. I click on the ACT, and I draw my arrow towards the Gold Coast, just like that. I think it also said that Tasmania was one, so I also again draw an arrow from Tasmania. We want to try and stop any overlap of our lines. So we'll try my best to go, there we go, Tasmania to the Gold Coast. What other areas? I think it might be Northern Territory. Yep. So we also go Northern Territory to the Gold Coast. We also have Western Australia. Okay. Western Australia to the Gold Coast. And we have South Australia. Okay, so I do South Australia as well. Alright. Oh, sorry, not to the Gold Coast, my bad. I should, for the Tweed. So mine's for the Tweed. Yours will be for the Gold Coast. Alright, then I go for my next colour, which is slightly darker. And that one was for, having a look, Victoria. So now Victoria, you can see, is now in a different colour. There we go. And then I go to my next one, which is from overseas. Now overseas, like really that's, everywhere outside Australia. The easiest way probably to depict this is just go from the ocean the other way going in. Okay? And then I have my final two. My final two being New South Wales and Queensland. So I pick on the dark colour and go New South Wales and then Queensland. Alright, there we go. Now to move around the map again, I just click on my hand symbol here. I can move around a bit, zoom out if I want, zoom in. After I have my flow line created, all I need to do is export this out. There's two ways you can go about exporting it out. You can screenshot it or use a snipping tool like this and snipping tool it out, okay? So you could use something like that, or you can click a menu. You can click export as, and you just change the file type to an image or PDF, and then you can click save, okay? And then that will export your image out. Now when you go to export your image, you just have to make sure the scale you're going for is correct. So obviously, if I was zoomed in like this, it's not going to help. And if I was zoomed out too far, it's not going to help either. So you just have to mess around a little bit with your zooms and get it exactly how you like it before you then go to export it. Okay? After you do that, you then have created a FlowLine map. The last thing you would need to do is you might just have to go into Paint or Word and add a border, add an orientation. You already have your legend, which is good. You just need to create a title and you need to create your source. A scale has already been created for you if you look down in the bottom corner here, okay? You just have to make sure you keep it the same relative size to the map if you are going to use this scale. Because remember, you need to have bolts. So that is how you create a FlowLine map. So now have a go yourself by remember using your own data, the one that has been given to you for the Gold Coast. Alright, thank you for watching the video.